Friday. And so how about Middays with Mark? Congressman Mark Pocan on for the hour, taking your calls. Brilliantly representing the 2nd District of Wisconsin. He's also the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. You can find his website, Pocan, Pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep, R-E-P, Mark Pocan, M-E-R-K, Pocan, P-O-C-A-N. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here. Quite a week.
Indeed. And I don't know if you caught the news. I mean, literally broke in the last 4 minutes. Sean Spicer just resigned in protest over the appointment of Anthony Scaramucci as the White House Communications Director.
I think there are a lot of people at Saturday Night Live right now who are very, very sad.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy just lost a gig. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's very, very strange. So, you know, I saw this story yesterday. The first one I saw was on Huffington Post about how it was an analysis of the New York Times interview and how Trump said, well, you know, you pay $12 a year for insurance starting when you get right out of college, and you pay that $12 a year until you're 70, and by then you actually have some insurance. And I thought, that's weird. And then it turns out that back in May, in an interview with The Economist, he said the exact same thing, except it was $15 a month rather than $12 a year. What the heck is going on? Does this guy, you know, not understand the difference between the term life insurance he sees advertised on Fox News and how health insurance works? And is this a problem that goes beyond the president? Does the entire Republican caucus not understand how health insurance works?
Well, you know, Tom, I'll tell you, you got to remember, and I'm not saying that if you're a wealthy person you can't relate to other people, but, you know, over half of Congress are millionaires. You know, look at Darrell Issa and some of these other folks who are multi.
Oh, he's worth like $900 million, I think.
Yeah, and, you know, so to them, 12, 15, 1,000, it's all kind of the same, right? It just doesn't. It's not a lot of money, and to those of the rest of us, you know, we were kind of shocked to see that. I mean, that interview in and of itself, I had retweeted something. I'm forgetting the exact words they used, but basically, they were comparing it to someone who like just took a hit of acid as he gave the interview because he rambled in so many different areas, and it was such a bizarre interview. But to show that disconnect as they are taking away health care from, you know, under one of the most recent proposals, now 32 million people in this country, you know, they just don't get it. They really don't get what real people care about, which is why, you know, when I look at in my neighboring district, you know, Paul Ryan's district, you know, he's gone very Washington clearly these days as speaker. You know, you got a guy like Randy Bryce who is an iron worker who's running, and he could talk about stuff. You know, he said, let's trade jobs. I mean, let's make people understand what you actually pay out of your copay and what the actual insurance costs per month. Let's make them understand the basic economics of what people talk about at their kitchen table. You know, can you afford your mortgage? Can you have health insurance for your family? Can you send your kids to college if they want to go? And can you take a family vacation? That's what real people think about, not what people like Donald Trump and I think the Republican majority thinks about.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. And in fact, Paul Ryan, you mentioned Paul Ryan. Sometime in the recent past, I don't have the article in front of me here. I was riffing off it yesterday. But sometime in the recent past, Paul Ryan made the comment that, you know, you can't have a sustainable system where healthy young people are paying for sicker old people. And I thought that was the whole point of health insurance. We pay into it our whole lives, and so that when we need it, it's there.
But you got to remember, Tom, when I first was running for Congress, this is now going back about 5 years, maybe 5.5, it was the same week that he was seen out having two $350 bottles of wine with a couple lobbyists for dinner. And
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? That was the week I happened to be out there when I was running. When people can drink multiple bottles of $350 bottle of wine, you aren't in touch anymore with real people.
Yeah. Well, and that was as I recall, dinner with a couple of lobbyists at a fancy schmancy restaurant here in Washington, D.C. So, okay, so there's that and this whole healthcare thing. We're talking, by the way, with Congressman Mark Pocan today. It's Middays with Mark. He will be taking your calls as soon as I'm done interrogating him. If you'd like to ask a question of Congressman Pocan, give us a call. Give him a call at 202-808-9925. Your opportunity to talk to a member of Congress, and one of the very best. Congressman, Jeff Sessions has instructed the nation's police to ramp back up civil asset forfeiture, at least the federal agencies, after President Obama put a stop to it. In 2015, the federal authorities in the United States seized over $3.2 billion worth of cash and assets from Americans who were never convicted of crimes. And that amount is more than all the burglars in the country stole that year. This is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and the way they did a lot of this was to get around state laws that actually were stricter, so they could bump things to federal court, so they could actually take some of the things that they took from people, again, without any conviction. So the fact that Jeff Sessions and this Department of Justice is overturning the changes that were made by the Obama administration to get rid of that is pretty amazing. Even more amazing, I think, is the fact that, the president talked about saying he never would have made Jeff Sessions the AG if he knew he was going to recuse himself on Russia, right? So the Department of Justice was big in the news also this week on multiple fronts that, again, just show that complete disconnect with reality that this White House has.
Yeah, it's really, really extraordinary. And the whole civil asset forfeiture thing, it's so wrong. I don't know how we got on that road, where it started, or I think it came along with Nixon's war on drugs. But boy, what a non, small d democracy, democratic thing. Anyhow,
not something you expect of America.
Indeed. George in Santee, California, watching us on Free Speech TV. George, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you, Tom, and good day to you and Congressman Pocan. Mr. Pocan, I would like to know your position on our foreign policy in the Middle East.
Sure, George. It's a little broad. There's a lot of things there. I think in general, let me say this, and I think this is probably true of many of us in the progressive caucus, George. We would like to see a bit more of a scaled back Defense Department where we're not taking the lead in every single action wherever it is on the globe, especially in the Middle East. It seems that we, from our past experiences there, we don't know the region nearly as well as people in the region do. And while I think when there is a need for us to be involved, we can provide essential backup to people in the region. I think our past experience of trying to lead in this area has not proven wise, whether it be Iraq or Afghanistan. Clearly a lot of the efforts in Syria have not gone well, and it's a huge amount of cost, both in human terms and dollars. So, I wish we had a bit more of a focus on diplomacy across the board, even with some people that maybe haven't always been our diplomatic partners, before we just automatically jump to defense methods. And if you look at this current budget and the appropriations bills that we just passed in the last couple of weeks, and it'll be on the floor in the House next week, there's a huge increase going into defense, and it's not that it's going to the people who actually serve us in the military. It's often going to military contractors, and a lot of things I think are just going to cost us far more down the road.
Okay. Dion in Round Lake, Illinois. Dion, you're on watch this on YouTube. Dion, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, Trump had a luncheon with Republicans, I believe, on Wednesday, and he said that President Obama lied 20 times about Obamacare. But he's saying that if we go to single payer, like the Democrats want, we will go bankrupt. Is that true? And how did we go to single payer without going bankrupt? And do you think this is another lie of Trump?
Yeah, I think I heard last night, and I'm not sure if I haven't fact-checked this myself, but I heard in the first 6 months he's been president, not only have we done virtually nothing in Congress, he's made statements that he signed more bills than any president, and he's down the list quite a bit. What I heard is he did 991 tweets. And most of those fall probably in the either odd information or misinformation categories more than often. When he says things about single payer, or anyone says that, they're just wrong. I mean, Canada, Europe, you can look across the globe and see where this works extremely well. The problem is you're going to disrupt a very big, significant, one out of every $6 in the economy when you talk about health care. And if you actually talk about a big concept like Medicare for all, single payer, a lot of people get their backs riled, and I think that's why you see people either slow to sometimes come on board, even though I think it makes complete logical sense to go that path, or you'll see a lot of resistance because they're supporting the special interests, whether it be the insurance companies or others, rather than supporting the American people. So outright lie. Many articles are out there showing just the opposite. I think that's our aspirational place to get to. But right now, what we're saying is let's just fix the Affordable Care Act. 20 million people now have access to health insurance who didn't before. Things like pre-existing conditions, now you can get coverage. You don't have a lifetime cap. Women are paying the same as men. Let's keep all that good stuff, and let's just fix the areas that need to be fixed. And let's, do something about health care and not about tax breaks for the wealthy.